Hi, my name is Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Welcome back, guys. I hope you're all safe and well, and thank you if you're an essential worker working during this time. I watched a lot of TV and a lot of movies this month. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, it is a monthly wrap-up where I talk about everything I watched in the month and I give you guys recommendations along the way. But before we jump into the video, I want to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, which is Shadow Alley Productions. Shadow Alley Productions is a YouTube channel that is dedicated to horror movies and particularly 80s cheese. The channel has top 10s, movie countdowns, reviews, essays, and unboxings. The host Adam is very passionate about special effects and has videos guiding you through budget filmmaking tips. If you've ever considered making a horror movie and wanted inspiration on how to make the creepiest ghoul for your flick, Adam has done the research for you. I didn't know anything about silicone masks until I checked out his channel and I am sold. Shadow Alley Productions is a one-stop shop for creepy stuff and I know you guys are gonna love his stuff, especially the 80s stuff, and the production value of his channel is amazing. So definitely go check it out. I've left the link down in the description below and thank you again for sponsoring this video. Okay guys, let's dive in. I am using my letterboxd. As always, I have this linked down below, but I'm Spooky Astronaut. No S. I don't know why I didn't put an S. Wow, this feels like forever ago. The first movie I watched this month was Bad Taste. I wanted to just rewatch this film because I haven't seen it in so long. I'm a huge Peter Jackson fan. But of course, I really love Dead Alive and Heavenly Creatures. Those are my two favorite films by him. I hadn't seen Bad Taste in a while and it's just so interesting. I did this for a video. Like I watched this for, I think my best of 90s video. I just wanted to like double check to recommend it in my underrated gems. And it's definitely an underrated film if you haven't seen it. It's very strange. It was also shot like really low budget on the weekends from him and his friends, and then like I guess the funding system over there saw what he was capable of and put a lot of money into the ending of the film. So it's quite interesting in that regard. I mean, I've given it a 2.5, but I think it's definitely a staple if you like his movies and want to see how his career was pathed. That was a long explanation. Sorry, this wasn't for 90s, it would have been for 80s, you can see here. After this, I watched Altered States. I did this because I was on, well, I still kind of am, on like a Ken Russell exploration. And this was from the 80s and highly recommended. So I watched it and then I actually recommended it in my 80s video. I'm gonna link that above because I'm talking about it so much. I then watched Lost Girls, which is, I believe it's on a lot of lists for like VOD movies that horror that have come out this year. I did not like it. I believe it was on Netflix. It is, I'm not sure if it's based on a true story, but it is about a woman whose daughter goes missing and yeah, she just tries to track it down, and I just felt like it was very messy, and if you're into true crime, I think you can do a lot better. I would not recommend it. I then watched 47 Meters Down. I was doing a puzzle. I believe it was like a Friday night or something. I was doing a puzzle and I was drinking some wine and I thought, I haven't seen this Mandy Moore horror movie and I need to check it out. Wow, that ending. What? If you haven't seen it, I kind of recommend it. I did only give it 2.5, but I feel like it's a good background movie, although you want to pay attention like halfway through to like what is going on. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but the acting is really cheesy. I thought the situation for the setup of the film was really cool. It's about her going down in a cage to like shark dive, and then you know something goes wrong. If you've seen the trailer or if you've seen a poster, I'm sure you know what, I mean the title, 47 Meters Down. But yeah, I didn't think it was as bad as it was gonna be, but it wasn't a good movie, so I gave it half. A movie that really surprised me is A Star Is Born. I put off this movie for so long, and I don't have anything against like Lady Gaga or Bradley Cooper. But for some reason, I just thought this movie is not for me. And then I watched it and I'm like, oh, this is a good movie. And I cried all the way through, but it happens to me. I get very emotional when I watch movies and that's why I love them so much. Then I watched The Great Gatsby because Baz Luhrmann is Australian and I've never seen this film, which means I'm like a traitor to my country. And I mean, I don't really know anything about the original material. I went in completely blind, uneducated swine over here, but I love Leo. And I mean, it had its moments where I was kind of put off by the stylization, but that's Baz Luhrmann. It either works or it doesn't work for you. But I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I then watched Blended, which is an Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, a romantic comedy. It's so silly about like a blended family that goes to Africa. It's a long story. A lot of people ask me if I watch other movies than horror movies, and I'm sure they have not seen these videos because I watched a lot of trash. But I love Adam Sandler. If you didn't know this about me, I absolutely love him, and I love his really, really bad movies like The Cobbler. I love that movie. It's just like a comfort that you get from watching these kind of movies because you just know that he does them for him and not for anyone else. Moving on, I watched The Babysitter. I watched this as a Netflix party. I've been doing Netflix parties with my patrons, which has been really fun. I have seen this movie before. I rate it. I think it's good. I didn't think it was as good as the second time around, maybe because I knew it was gonna happen, but it's fast paced, fun, like comedy horror, and I'm excited to see what they do with the new one, which was meant to come out this year. I'm not sure if it's still coming out, but I know that Samara Weaving isn't in the new one, which is kind of sad. I then watched The Other Lamb, which, I mean, you're gonna wait for the next couple movies. This is when I did my like 20 films or like pieces of media about cults. I'll link that above, but I watched a lot of cult content, and what kicked that off was The Other Lamb, which is a movie that came out this year about a cult. I was kind of disappointed with this movie. It had such an insane vibe and it's shot so beautifully. The locations are amazing, but it just doesn't feel like it gets where it's going. It has a couple of like split off moments where you think something big's gonna happen and it doesn't really happen. But I think it's like the vibe they're going for, and they're not going for like a hard-hitting, intense moment, just like an overall message, if that makes sense. So if you're gonna watch it, just lower your expectations a little bit, because although the vibe is really there and it's very beautiful, there's not a huge arc in the story. The next couple I watched, I'm not gonna go into these in detail because I do in another video. In my cults video, I watched Ticket to Heaven, 7 Stages to Achieve Eternal Bliss. Wow, I can't believe I said that right the first time. Split Image and Savage Messiah. These are all cult related stories. I'd say the 7 Stages is very different because it's a comedy horror that's really dark about like self-sacrifice. I'm trying to put it nicely for YouTube. And I'd say definitely check that one out because that one is so zany and insane. But if you're into like cult material, just look at my other video because I give you 20 different examples of what to watch and you'll be able to pick out more what suits you there. But I do recommend everyone to watch the 7 Stages. It's not the best movie. I mean, I gave it a 3 out of 5, but it's definitely interesting and I recommend it. I then watched The Turning and Gretel and Hansel, and I did another video on this. But quickly, I will say The Turning, wow, that ending. But a lot of people have gone into detail about The Turning and why it turned out the way it did. And you can't really put fault on it, but as a movie, does it work? Of course, a lot of people mentioned in my comment section about The Innocents, which is from 1961. And I have reviewed this before, but I felt like it was very different to this modern take. I then watched The Gretel and Hansel, which I really like this film, and I highly recommend you guys checking it out because at least if you don't like it, it's definitely interesting to see modern CGI and the retelling of this kind of fairy tale. I then watched Crypt Camp, which is about the disability revolution in America. I believe it's in New York. I can't remember exactly what like location it was. Very interesting about a camp and then people fighting for their rights. If you didn't know, I work with the elderly and people with disabilities in my like day job. So I thought this was really interesting and very cool that this is on Netflix and available to a lot of people. I then watched The First Wives Club. I was having another like Saturday night wine, doing a puzzle, and I decided to watch a couple of movies that were like low-key background movies, but I actually ended up glued to this movie because it was just so wacky and interesting. First time watching, I don't know if I have to say anything more about it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Interesting. I then watched a Cinderella Story, which I've seen this movie a billion times. I didn't even rate it because I didn't want to be judged. I just don't know what to rate this because it's all a nostalgia factor and none of it is how it actually is as a movie. But I will say Lynn Shay, her best role is in this movie. Moving on. I then watched Donnie Darko as part of a hangout with my patrons. If you didn't know, I do have a Patreon account. We have a chat that goes 24/7 and we do hangouts every month. We do Netflix parties, semi-regular. If you do want to check that out ever, the link is in the description down below. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Donnie Darko. I haven't seen it in like 10 years, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe like 8 years, and absolutely loved it. Felt like I understood it so much more now. But it's, yeah, I love that movie. Who doesn't? If you haven't seen Donnie Darko, check it out, although it's very heavy. I then watched Brain on Fire. I have been putting off watching this movie for so long because I was reading the book originally, and I have problems reading, I have problems speaking, I have problems writing, I have problems spelling, I have grammar issues, but my brain just, it's really hard for me to get into a book, and I'm reading a book at the moment, but maybe I'll mention that later. But this book I just couldn't get into, and you know when you can't get into a book, it's really hard to stay focused, and I kept trying and I just kept like giving up. And so I finally watched the movie, and it's based on a real life case. Well, it's based on the book, which is written by the lady who it happened to. That was a weird way of saying it's a true story. It was about a journalist who's in the New York Post, and she starts having like issues with her brain, and not sure what's going on, kind of like episodes, and it all linking back to like this really rare case that she has. And it's interesting. Chloe, I don't know, guys. Do you like Chloe? How do you feel about her? I just don't know how I feel about her sometimes. I mean, I liked her in the new like Carrie remake, but I don't know if it was like I like Julianne more. I don't know. I just never know if I like her or not. I then watched One of Us, which I mean, this goes into what I watched in TV this month, but it's about Hasidic Jews and breaking out of that community. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I'm sure if you pick up what I'm putting down, I have stuff to talk about in the TV shows that goes more into this actual hole that I went into. But a lot of people have been going down these holes recently because Netflix has brought out a lot of content to do with Hasidic Jews at the moment, like in their communities and things about them. So we'll leave that until the TV. And then I watched Black Swan and Mother, two movies you should never watch like back to back, obviously by the same director, but wow, they're so intense and in such different ways. And obviously, like, this is probably my only like second or third time watching Black Swan, and my second time watching Mother. So I haven't watched them a lot. Black Swan is such an incredible movie. Like, I gave this 9, out of 10. Black Swan is so good, and I keep forgetting I'm a huge fan of Natalie Portman. And Mother was really good the second time around. Now I understood what was happening, because the first time I watched it, I did a review. I was like in the cinema and I had no idea what was going. But I did this for Does This Offend You stream, which we do this every single month on Naima Maven's channel, or my channel. And what we do is we pick out 2 like films that have like controversial, like taboo issues, and we just talk about them. It's not really about being offended. A lot of people get like misconstrued what it's about, but it's just about us like deep diving into taboo topics within horror, which you watch and you're like, wow, that was a lot, and then you kind of move on. But in this one, we talk about like the disturbing, strange atmosphere created by certain topics in movies. And this month it will be on my channel, so watch out for posts about that. You can follow me on Instagram, and I update all the time about those kind of things. I then watched Burning, which is one of you guys, Stephanie, who I know through this channel. She had been recommending this movie to me for a long time. It is a South Korean like drama, which is very strange, and it goes for a very long time. I think it's like 2.5 hours, which I know people get mad when I talk about the length of films, but this one is very slow. Like, it's literally a slow burn. That's what the film is. It is a well done movie, but you really need to be like in the mood to like hang on, because not a lot happens, and it's more about the atmosphere. I believe it's based on a book, but it's about a girl who like manipulates a boy. I want to say that. It's about a lot of things. It's a strange movie, and a lot of you guys have rated it really high, if you can see down here. So that's Impression Blend. I love her channel, Mariana. She's rated it like 4.5, so she definitely recommends it, so maybe you should check it out. But it does take a lot to get into. I gave it a 3. It's a beautiful movie, and the acting is superb, don't get me wrong. If you're into South Korean slow burns, slow burns, where like there's not much of a result, you can check it out. But I don't want to give you guys suggestions or recommendations of films where there's not a huge like arc, because I feel like a lot of you want like the quick fix, the quick horror. But I could be wrong. If that sounds like something for you, check it out. The next 3, I was having another wine night. I hope it was a wine night. What was the 18th? Yes, it was. It was a Saturday night. I watched Where the Truth Lies. I hadn't seen this film. And I just always seen the cover kind of pop up. It's about a reporter who's Alison Lohman. am I saying her name right? I love her. She's beautiful. And I mean, she's in Drag Me to Hell, which you guys probably know her from the most. It's got Kevin Bacon in it as well, you know, just a minor detail, and Colin Firth. And it's about like this duo that was very famous, and the reporter who's trying to find out the truth behind this murder they're kind of mixed up in. I felt like a lot of it is obvious, but then they like have things that aren't so obvious. It's like a little murder mystery drama. I thought it was interesting, something I won't forget. I then watched Jenny's Wedding, which is a movie I've wanted to see for a long time, and I just never felt like I was in the mood for. And it was so different than what I thought it was. It's actually kind of pissed me off, to be honest. It's got Katherine Heigl in it, and it's about her coming out to her parents and having a wedding. It's literally in the photo. It's more about her parents accepting who she is. And I guess it makes sense for this film to exist because it's more catering to people's parents who aren't accepting of the fact than obviously them and them being gay themselves. And that kind of pissed me off because it was hard to watch. But I think that this movie is catered towards trying to sell acceptance to parents. So I can understand why it exists. And I guess it's good to have that kind of material out there. If anyone has seen this, let me know what you thought. But it really annoyed me. But that's why I kind of gave it half, because I'm like, I guess this was not catered towards people who are gay themselves or already accepting. I don't know. It still annoys me. Does that make any sense? And then I watched Mystic Pizza because I'd never seen it. And Julia Roberts is insane in this one. It is, I can't believe I'd never seen this. Everyone always talks about it. It is just about, it's like a coming of age of 3 girls who work in a pizza parlor. And it's just a weird, fun movie. I thought it was fun. I just watched it while I was doing a puzzle. I then watched V for Vendetta, and let me tell you, this movie does not hold up that well, believe it or not. I know a lot of you are probably out there screaming, this is a great movie. Have you watched it lately? I think that the acting's done really well, and the idea is interesting, but in the current climate, it kind of is hard to watch. And then also I was looking into the history of Guy Fawkes, and I was very confused. I did a lot of like deep dives into the history, and that made the movie seem even weaker. And this is an unpopular opinion, I'm sorry. It's just my opinion, it really is. And I can be like really sugarcoat things, or I can tell you how I feel. And I just felt like that movie didn't hold up as well as it used to. I then watched all of these movies here for my Best Asian Horror Movies video. I'll link that above if you want to check it out, totally up to you. But I was just trying to get some more ones that I hadn't seen. Moving on, I watched Don't Let Them In, which was a low budget horror movie screener that was sent to me. I try and watch as many low budget films as I can. This one is weird because when I click on it, it's the right poster, but what they're saying isn't what the film's about at all. And I mean, a little bit, but not really at all. And it's the same film, it's the same director. And even if I bring it up on IMDb, it's not really what the film's about. I feel like this is, yeah, it's more, yeah, here we go. It's about social workers who go into a home and things are not what they seem. And then we finally watched Blackhat Clansmen. I've been waiting to see this movie for a very long time. And finally, I think it was on Netflix now. So very excited about this. Wow, I loved the leads in this film. I thought they did really well, and loved the story. I felt like it wasn't as like intense as I expected it to be, and I felt like it was a very strange movie for Spike Lee. Like it just didn't feel as raw as he usually is until the end. But I really enjoyed it. And I would recommend it. I then watched The Wretched, which I just did a review on, so check that out if you would like to. And then I watched We Summon the Darkness, which I did a review on. Check that out if you want to hear my opinion. It's actually a spoiler video, so I would probably recommend you check out the movie because it's got some like very interesting moments in it, and I'd love for you guys to come over then to my spoiler conversation and have a conversation with me about it. That's why I made that video. I then watched 1BR, which is a movie a lot of you guys have been asking me about and asking me my thoughts. I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good. I gave it a 3 out of 5, so that's like a 6. I didn't think it was amazing, but there was definitely some like intense moments, and I'd probably recommend you guys checking it out. It is about a girl who moves to LA, and she moves into this apartment block, and everyone is just like a little bit off until she realizes what's going on. I'd say that this film was very interesting because it was really detailed in some parts, but not so much in others. So I thought that was interesting, but I would prefer a lot more detail. I'm trying to stay vague, if that makes sense. But I'd probably still recommend it. It's a good like VOD horror for sure, and yeah, probably worth your time. You see a lot of people are giving it, yeah, about like 2.5, yeah. So I think it's all right. I think you could either love it or hate it. But definitely worth some of the moments because some of the gore is pretty good. I then watched Cam, which I love this movie. Actually, I'm going to talk about what I'm reading at the moment just while we're on this. I'm reading the book which the writer who wrote this, which is kind of based on her background as a cam girl. I'm reading her book, which is called Cam Girl. Shout out to Danielle who recommended it to me, and I'm absolutely loving it. But I am a huge fan of this movie. I did a review when it first came out. It got in my top 10 of 2018, and highly recommend if you haven't seen it. It is on Netflix. I actually watched this as part of a Netflix party with my patrons. And then I watched Greenberg. What? I wasn't really sure what this movie is. Me and my like partner, we put it on, and I was expecting like, you know, a Ben Stiller comedy, and then I saw Greta Gerwig and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I saw Mark Duplass's name pop up, so I knew it was going to be like a slice of life indie kind of movie. And I tell you what, Ben Stiller has never been more annoying in his life. I wasn't a huge fan of this movie, but if you're into the kind of like a Greta Gerwig slice of life, you probably like it a lot more than me. Another one that's based in LA and about like the LA social scene, you know? I wonder what you guys who live in LA think about these movies about LA and LA culture. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I then watched The Incredibles, which this is a rewatch. I probably should have put it on as a rewatch, but I've seen it before. Great movie. I think it's a really solid movie. And then I watched The Legend of Hell House, which is a great movie, a really great movie. But I'm going to talk about more of this in my next upcoming video. So if you haven't subscribed, please do, because I'm going to do the best of the 70s, which I'm so scared about because I have some controversial choices. Finally, guys, we are on to TV shows. My first TV show that I watched this month was The Exposed Case of Kelly Lane. This is like a true crime kind of mini documentary series commissioned by the ABC, I believe. But it is about a journalist who's trying to figure out this woman and if she did something to her baby or not. I'm trying to be friendly with my words. And I wouldn't recommend it. It's on Netflix and nothing happens. I think it might be based on a podcast, but absolutely nothing happens in it. I mean, you hear the whole information, and I guess this is like true crime. Some people like unsolved mysteries, but I like to be like fed it all. I like production quality, production value, them giving you twists and turns and then hitting you with the big, and this is what happened. But that kind of, yeah, it didn't really work in this one, so I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was a little bit awkward, actually. I did watch the documentary How to Fix a Drug Scandal. This is on Netflix. Another true crime, yeah, I guess it's a crime one, about like testing labs in America and people who were there who got addicted to drugs. Very interesting. I love when they talk about the situation and not people and like demonizing like behaviors, and more about a situation and how to help it and how to fix it. I like that, and yeah, if it sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. But I really thought it was interesting, and I liked the different sides of the story and how they got all their information was really interesting, and I highly recommend that one. And here we go. I watched Unorthodox. My lord. I also watched the making of afterwards. If you haven't seen anything on this, I'm sure you would have. It was all over Netflix. There was a huge push by Netflix to get this out to viewers and get them watching it at the start of the month. Lots of campaigns, lots of follow-ups on this TV show, which is based on a real story about a girl who was part of like a Hasidic Jew community in Brooklyn, and her breaking out of that. For several different reasons. I did not know much about Hasidic Jews or like, you know, that background and that community. It was something that was always really interesting to me. As you know, I'm really interested in religion, and the TV show, I mean, obviously it's dramatized, but they got really interesting details in there, and I was like Googling certain things the whole time, like, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And I had looked into like, some of these things before, but not a lot of them, so it was really interesting to have that in a TV show. I didn't think it would be as educational as it was, but it was. And then the making of really goes into the details about how they got everything so similar to what actually happened and how actors in the TV show are involved in those communities or were. So I thought that was really interesting. And then of course I watched the documentary movie, which I talked about in like my movie section. So yeah, I did a little bit of deep diving, and then I watched a lot of videos comparing how it is and talking to people who were part of those communities. I think it's really interesting stuff. And if there's like a slight little bit of interest that you have, definitely watch the TV show. It's really good and really well done and super interesting. It's like more of a drama TV show, but I think it's really interesting and I highly recommend it. And then I was scrolling through Stan, which Stan is a Australian streaming service, and wow, I scrolled past and I saw that we had every single thing that Twin Peaks offers. So like season 1, season 2, the new season, and the movie. And I have watched the first 2 seasons before. I haven't seen the new one that I think came out in 2017, but I also hadn't seen the movie, and I know the movie is highly recommended. And I thought, I'm not gonna watch the movie without like going back and going through this again, because it's been about 12 years since I've seen the TV shows. So I started going down the deep, I can hear the music, you know, going down that deep hole and rewatching all of that, and it was magical, man. I love it so much. I'm still like getting through the end of season 2 now, and then I'm really excited to watch the movie, and then I probably will watch the new season. But it was just so nice to revisit it. And if you haven't seen Twin Peaks, I'm sure you've seen a lot of fuss about it. It's this David Lynch creation that's kind of like a drama crime TV show that's like a mystery, but it's so cheesy but well done, if that makes sense. I can't explain it. It's like a different universe. It's literally like walking into a different world, and the music in it is just inspiring, the aesthetics, the characters, and I just love it so much. And I'm so glad that I chose to rewatch it because I'm enjoying it so much. Okay, enough Twin Peaks fangirling. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully it gave you some good recommendations. Let me know what you guys have been watching down below. I'd love to hear and answer any of the questions I had throughout this video, which were a lot. I want to thank Shadow Alley Productions again for sponsoring this video. It means so much to me, and definitely go check out his channel down below in the links, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.